Yo, Dave Loughran back at you with another video, and today we are talking late round running backs, not handcuffs. I'm going to do an entirely separate video on that next week, so keep in mind the running backs we're talking about today are backs that already have utility, that are already getting a sizable amount of work, but have league-winning potential if something breaks their way in the season. And I tried to keep them 10th round or later. There's one that you'll see. It's probably 8th or 9th round, but it would have been dumb to name this top running backs in the middle and late rounds. So you get the point. Anyway, let's dive into it. But before we do me a solid. If you enjoy these videos, if you think they helped you along the way, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below on what you think of the players in this list. And if there's anyone I missed and should take a look at. Let's get started. I've seen a ton of videos and articles this offseason about why we should be avoiding Ronald Jones and the entire Tampa Bay backfield. I guess I'm just not seeing it. So let me attempt to make a case for why Jones actually makes for a perfectly reasonable and probably even a good running back to consider at the end of the 9th or early 10th round. Jones had an incredibly efficient season in 2020, producing 5.1 yards per attempt, which ranks 6th among all running backs with at least 100 carries, and averaged 3.65 yards per contact after attempt, according to Pro Football Focus, which was bested by only Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. He was also very productive inside the 5-yard line, where he turned 10 carries into 5 scores and handled nearly 50% of team carries inside the red zone. He finished as the RB19th in PPR formats and the RB15 in standard leagues, and is being drafted as the RB33 this season. The biggest concern with Jones is Leonard Fournette, who emerged as the Buccaneers' lead back in the postseason last year. He was a far less efficient rusher on the season, though, and according to PFF, had one of the lowest elusiveness ratings among all running backs. He was the better pass catcher over Jones, but still dropped 5 passes on 46 targets and averaged less than 5 yards per reception. So while Bruce Arians has already stated that there will be a backfield split again, Jones could legitimately take over as a clear lead back if he picks up where he left off last year. And even if that doesn't come to fruition, Jones still averaged almost 14 carries and 17 looks in Tampa's Super Bowl winning season. The Bucs averaged 3.6 offensive touchdowns per game last year, good for 2nd in the league, and should be one of the better offenses again in 2021. We're drafting Jones as a bench player with triple-digit ADP on Underdog. That feels pretty good to me. And no, I'm not particularly worried about the arrival of Giovanni Bernard either, even though he'll likely get a decent amount of passing down work given the aforementioned RB's struggles as receivers. Latavius Murray's always set up nicely for a late round selection. He's averaged almost 10 carries per game across 2 seasons with New Orleans and has been on the field for about 36% of offensive snaps. He's averaged 852 yards from scrimmage and 5.5 touchdowns as a Saint, and you can grab him in the 12th round with an ADP of 135. Now, Murray isn't going to see much more opportunity than that if Alvin Kamara is healthy, and Sean Payton already ran the ball at the league's 4th highest clip last year. But an injury to Kamara vaults Murray into RB1 territory, or at worst, a high-end RB2. In the 2 back-to-back weeks that Kamara missed in 2019, Murray was the RB1 by nearly 10 PPR points, producing a total of 48 carries for 221 yards and 3 touchdowns, while hauling in 14 receptions for 86 yards and a score through the air. He's one of a handful of late-round running backs who already has utility as a backup, but becomes a league winner if Kamara misses any significant stretch of time. Raheem Mostert isn't a late-round pick like Murray or some of the other backs you'll see featured in this video, but he has a mid-8th round ADP on Underdog and is being drafted a full round after rookie teammate Trey Sermon, so I wanted to throw him in here. Don't get me wrong, Sermon should absolutely be an impact rookie this season. The 49ers traded up to take him 88th overall, and he should immediately be in a 2-way timeshare with Mostert. There's little reason to believe that Sermon and Mostert can't both see significant workloads in 2021, though. Kyle Shanahan wants to run the football like they did during their Super Bowl run back in 2019 when the entire team wasn't injured. San Francisco's 32.1 rushing attempts per game and 51.4% run play percentage were 2nd highest in football behind only Baltimore. And unlike the Ravens, almost all of those attempts came from the running backs. Now that could change if Trey Lance is installed as the starter over Jimmy Garoppolo, but there's no doubt that a healthier Niners squad is going to have a much easier time controlling the pace of the game than they did in 2020. The biggest knock on Mostert has been his inability to stay healthy, and it's absolutely a fair criticism of the 29-year-old back. But he's averaging an excellent 5.6 yards per attempt across 282 career carries and over 10 yards per reception, even though he's scarcely been used in the passing game. The 49ers have one of the highest Vegas win totals in the league this year at 10.5 games, and arguably the softest schedule to boot. If we can expect them to get back to rushing the ball 30-plus times a week, Mostert, assuming he's healthy, should certainly be able to eat. James Conner is a running back who I'll be targeting for my bench this year in the 10th or 11th round. He's coming off a disappointing, injury-riddled campaign with the Steelers, but much of his failure came as the result of Pittsburgh's terrible offensive line. The Steelers ranked 31st in run blocking according to PFF and threw the ball an insane 65.5% of the time on the season. Conner was still efficient at the goal line, though, and averaged 4.3 yards per attempt, which is pretty much in line with his career average. He certainly isn't the Conner of old, but here's why that won't matter. Conner's situation in Arizona isn't perfect, but it isn't as bad as people are making it out to be. Yeah, Kyler Murray will steal some goal line carries and is coming off an 11 rushing touchdown season. But Cardinals running backs have actually accounted for a whopping 34 touchdowns in 2 seasons with Murray under center. 24 of them have come on the ground. Actually, Kenyon Drake was 4th in red zone carries and 3rd in carries inside the 5 last year, and still finished with 10 rushing touchdowns despite being wildly inefficient. And Arizona running backs have averaged 333 carries per year since 2019. That's not all that bad. Another big question mark with Conner is what will Chase Edmonds' involvement be? Well, Edmonds has never carried the ball 100 times in a season. And even with Drake struggling last year, Edmonds only averaged 4.8 carries per game when Drake was active. So while there are some durability concerns with Conner, and we know he isn't going to be a surefire 3-down back in Arizona, I'd still rather draft him at an ADP of 111 over Edmonds at 79. There's better value in drafting Conner 3 rounds later and hoping he gets the majority of rushing down and goal line work, which is entirely plausible. Edmonds has handled exactly 1 carry inside the 5-yard line in 3 years with Arizona. Conner has seen 32 carries inside the 5, with 16 of them going for scores. I'd be shocked if he wasn't a clear goal line back this season, and touchdowns are obviously key to fantasy success. I'm just throwing this out there, but what if Tevin Coleman and not Michael Carter is the lead back in New York this season? Even to start the year, maybe through the first 5 or 6 weeks. I'm not excited about Coleman, and you shouldn't be either, but it is worth mentioning that he's the 50th running back going off the board with an ADP of 178 on a team that doesn't have a clear top option at the position. Not to mention, I always want to give you guys at least one super late round flyer in these videos that you can take with your last pick of the draft instead of throwing it away. La'Mical Pirine, Ty Johnson, and Michael Carter have a combined 181 carries between them for their careers. Coleman was averaging 145 carries between 2016 and 2019 before being phased out of the offense in San Francisco last year after an injury cost him 8 games. And across those 4 seasons, Coleman found the end zone a very impressive 35 times, with 23 of them coming on the ground and 12 through the air. The truth is, Michael Carter is probably already the better NFL running back than Coleman, and I'm not suggesting you don't draft him this year. What I am suggesting, though, is that Coleman doesn't go undrafted. Robert Saleh came over from San Francisco to take the head coaching job for a Jets team that had already hit rock bottom. He brought passing game coordinator Mike LaFleur with him to run the offense, and Coleman came along too. Coleman has familiarity with the zone rushing scheme and should at least be the starter to begin the year before Carter likely pushes him for more work and probably for the starting role. But still, that's a lot more than you could say about any of these other running backs being drafted at a comparable ADP to Coleman. Thanks for watching. And as always, be sure to head over to Awesemo.com. Check out all the great tools and content we've got over there. Keep crushing those drafts. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe button on your way out, and we'll catch you back here for the next one.